Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I thought I would chat with you guys a little bit about one of the biggest problems that I'm seeing with a lot of my new clients. And that's one of the things that I told everybody as me really kind of pushing the strength coaching business, that it would give me a lot of useful information to people. And what's fascinating to me is that one of the biggest problems that I see with new clients, because form check videos are part of it. In fact, until they send me some of their form check videos, I won't even write their first block of training. And frequently, one of the biggest issues that I see is one of the things that I've made videos this year on, and that's about bench press tightness. And it's something that I have to teach each new person. And some of them learn it faster than others. Like, I have guys who've been working on it for a month and they're still not there. And I have some people who have zero tightness, and then all of a sudden their bench looks 10 times better with one Skype discussion with them, talking about it, walking through some of the process. And I think one of the things that we need to look at is, if you guys watch some of the things that I do on the benching, I just do it a mix of some of my ME work and my dynamic work from the last few sessions, the last couple weeks into this video, so that people could get an idea of what I'm talking about. Because you guys notice when I set up, you notice I set in tight and my feet are behind my knees, right? They're pulled under me. And one of the things you guys will notice even on the rep work is that my feet don't move. And then I stand up, and people jokingly call that my zombie rise. All of that, right? They're like, oh man, he just stands up like a zombie, or like Dracula. They make the different jokes about it. But you'd be surprised how many serious lifters do the same thing. And I'm not even using that big of an arch. And it's because, for me, I'm not built to bench, right? I'm not built to bench press. I'm built to deadlift. I have long arms. So for me, I have to get everything I can get out of a bench, and that includes setting myself up, pulling in tight to get good leg drive and everything else. So there are other lifters who do the same thing. And that came up with one of my clients the other day. I said, actually, I was watching, just flipping through different lifters, Marissa Inda. She does the same thing when she gets up off the bench that I do. And it's because when you're pulled in tight, that's the easiest way to stand up. It's actually easier for me to do that than it would be for me to release and let my feet go and then sit up. Right? To, like, you sit up and bend at the waist and stand up. So you sit up onto your butt and then stand up, because I'm pulled in tight. So that's one of the things that I'm talking about when I say that people aren't tight. And I'll give you guys a perfect example. When I get a form check video from a relatively new client, even if they can bench somewhat decent already, we say that, look, they don't know how to bench. And it's not that they're not strong. Right? We're not talking about being strong. We're talking about, can you actually bench correctly and utilize the strength that you already have? And one of the things that I notice is a dead giveaway, and this should be to all of you out there, people who foot dance. Like, if you notice on the speed work, these are sets of 5, right? Watch my feet. My feet are set in tight. They don't move between reps. When you watch somebody bench press, if their feet dance around, and by dancing meaning their feet pick up and move and bounce around into different positions, like their foot moves and picks up and they move their foot into a different spot a couple different times between reps. I call it foot dancing. They're like dancing between reps. If you can physically do that, if you even have the ability to do that, you're really, really loose on the bench. You're loose on the bench. And one of the things that people need to note, we're not even talking about a big arch. You should never be benching flat back. So if you're set in tight, when you set onto the bench, watch what I do. And here's what people need to observe. Even though I don't arch that much, I use a very modest arch because that's better for general size and strength, right? It's a very small arch. But you guys notice I pull myself all the way under the bar, I set my feet, and then I slide down, and then set my butt on the bench. Right? It happens on every single set. So watch again when I go over to the barbell. I pull my whole body all the way past the bar. Right? I get a hold of the bar, lift myself up, right? I set all the way back. I'm way down there. Then I set my feet and then slide down towards my feet, so that I pull my feet under my body. No part of my back is actually physically in contact with the bench. You guys can't always tell right there from that angle, but if I were to go put a camera under it, to the side, and put a flashlight on the other side, you guys would see the light all the way underneath my back. Your back doesn't touch the bench. Your feet touch the floor, your glutes touch the bench, and your traps touch the bench. So when we talk about getting tight and having scapular retraction, we mean that you pull your shoulder blades down and back. And when you do that, your traps touch the bench. Your upper trap is what's in contact with the bench, not the rest of your back. All right? Your lats shouldn't be touching the bench. Your spine should not be touching the bench. I mean, other than maybe the T-spine up at the top, up at your neck. There's a gap. And that's not just about tightness. That's also about creating the correct angle, because you do want a very small arch. In fact, most of the research shows that a small arch actually increases pectoral recruitment. A lot of people don't know that, though. They don't realize that because they're thinking an arch takes range of motion out, but it only takes a little bit out if you do a modest arch. We're not talking about the cheater arch. A lot of power lifters do who are really, really flexible. A little bit of an arch. I still have a really long range of motion. Look at that. But you set in tight. You set in tight. Your glutes are in the bench. And what you're almost doing once you're set in, it's like a leg extension. So watch what happens when I set in here and I pull myself under. Watch my quads. My quads contract. Do you know why? Because I'm digging my feet into the floor. So if your butt's touching the bench and your feet are digging into the floor, your quads are contracting. They're trying to perform a leg extension, but the floor is stopping my feet from moving. So I'm digging my feet into the floor just like as if I was doing a leg extension. That should be tight. Your quads should be completely contracted. And then people say, well, how do you keep your feet from kicking up in the air? Because you dig your feet into the floor. So if you dig your feet into the floor, and then right there when I set down, I contract the quads are permanently flexed. They're contracted and pushing your feet into the floor. You're digging them into the floor. You shouldn't be able to move your feet. You can't. It's not possible. The only way your feet would move is if maybe the part of the floor gave way. But you're digging into the floor. And when you do that, when your butt is set into the bench and then you dig your feet in, it drives your butt into the bench harder. Right? Because your quads are contracting. And that pushes your glutes down. Pushes your glutes down. That's also how you get leg drive. So if you guys notice when I do the heavier work and I sink it into my chest, you see my hips kind of shoot a little bit up. Because you can't help it, because your quads are already contracted. The leg drive happens automatically. By compressing the weight into yourself and sinking it, you push that down, and it pushes down harder against the legs, and then it drives up. So leg drive is automatic. That's why for me, when I want to remove leg drive, because I don't want to change my benching technique there, I want to always stay tight. I just floor press, right? Best way to do it. But tightness. Everything is tight. You need to set in tight. You should not be able to move your feet on the bench press. Your lats do not make contact with the bench. Your feet drive into the floor. Your glutes, your butt drives into the bench, and your traps drive into the bench. And when you drive your traps into the bench, you drive them in hard. One of the mental cues that every coach gives you on the bench press is what? You push yourself away from the bar. Well, that means you're pushing into the traps, because if the traps are pressed into the bench, then you're pushing through the traps. Your traps are pushed into the bench. It's your point of contact. You should be driving them into the bench when you explode out of the bottom, because again, that's one of the best cues. You push yourself away from the bench, and if you're tight, you can do that. Now, some people will be like, well, I have a friend, he benches a lot of weight and he doesn't do that. He's just that strong, right? That same guy, who benches 365 all loose and doesn't use any of those techniques would be benching over 400 if he did, okay? He would be benching over 400 if he did. He's leaving poundages off. That's just a really, really, really strong guy is what you're looking at. He doesn't know how to bench. He's just super strong. Of course, I'm having to work on that. My bench is not particularly great these days. It's one reason I'm doing a lot of work into it. I know how to bench. I'm just not that strong at it relative Now, a lot of people are like, well, you are pretty strong at it. Not really. Not compared to some other YouTubers, I'm not. It's my weakest lift still. So we're working on it. But the point is, that very guy you know of who is lifting a lot of weight on the bench, that's just because he's got a really strong chest and triceps and shoulders. He could be benching a lot more if he learned how to do it correctly. Alright guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.